Good morning. Welcome to the meeting, Climate Change and Nature Scrutiny panel. Right. Shall we start by introducing the people in the room? Yes, I'll start myself. I'm Councillor Sarah Keaton. Liz?
Liz Jordan, Scrutiny Officer.
Hello, good morning, and my name is Councillor Michael Locke, representing Scrutiny.
Morning all, Councillor David Hopkins, Joint Deputy Leader.
Karen Morgan, Head of Housing and Public Health.
Morning, Mark Wade, Director of Place.
Good morning, Tom Price. I'm the Divisional Environmental Health Officer for Pollution and Private Sector Housing.
Morning, Adrian Johnson. I'm the Team Leader for Pollution Control and Public Health.
Thank you.
Hi, Liz.
Can you hear me?
No, only now.
No, you can't. Right.
Can now.
Oh, you can now. Oh, that's because I pressed the button.
Can't see anything. We had this issue last Wednesday when I was in the Gloucester room.
There's no video.
Yeah, because you were out of the room.
Okay. Okay. Hang on a second.
The camera has kicked back in now. I can hear you fine. The camera was paused and we couldn't see anything, at least to me.
Okay.
I can't see anything.
You still can't see anything, Mary. Okay.
I can see you fine now.
Oh, right. How's it with everyone else?
I can see you.
I can see fine. Perfect.
Why can't I see you then?
No, there's no image. I've got no image either. So.
Oh, good. Somebody else.
It's not just you.
Okay. Shall we just continue anyway? Yep. We'll just have to continue, Mary, and hope your camera comes on. Okay. Apologies. I don't think we've had any apologies. Does anybody know of anyone else in the room? No. Okay. Item 2, disclosures. Any? If there are any, Liz will email out a template for completion. Right, okay, I'm moving straight on. Item 3, prohibition of whipped votes and declaration of party whips. Any comments? No, right. Item 4, minutes of previous meeting. Have you all had a chance to have a look at them? You go through the pages. 1, 2, 3. You go. That's it, isn't it? Everyone happy with those? You're sort of nodding. Okay, will anyone say they're in Bridget? Yeah, Bridget will. Anyone second that? That's brilliant, thank you. Okay. Public question time. Right. We haven't received any more. We've got some questions we've already done. We haven't received any more. Shall we continue with the questions? Oh, no. Hang on a second. Right, we got the local flood risk management annual update first. Sorry, I was getting very excited there. So who's leading on this item? Oh, right. Okay, brilliant. Shall I leave you to it then?
Yeah, Chair, I'd be happy to come in just to briefly introduce the report. I won't go into too much detail, as I'm sure members have read it. The report covers the main points in what we're doing in terms of flood risk management. It outlines our strategy and the measures we're going to employ for communities most at risk, how we work with other responsible authorities that lead on the flood action plan, that leads on to the flood action plan, and also a 6-year plan for that looks at communities most at risk within our 6 strategic flood risk areas. The report also highlights the types of actions, prevention, protection, preparedness, recovery and review. And it also touches on our capital drainage budget, which is a smaller budget of works taken on board operational comments and community concerns and things like that, Chair. The report in 2.6 also references the Mumble Sea defence. as we know, the promenade is undergoing a remarkable transformation with the new coastal defence measures that are nearing completion. In addition to the obvious flood mitigation measures, it's also presented an opportunity to install some exciting biodiversity measures with the Sea Hive project as well, Chair. I thought you'd be quite, I know you'd be quite interested in that element of the project as well. So the report also highlights the continuation of our additional resource into drainage with the drainage project. There's over 40,000 drains across Swansea, and the additional teams have actually proved invaluable to ensure that we run ahead of schedule. So that's everything from routine to reactive to deal with complaints. So I just want to thank Mike, who's on the call, Chair, for pulling together an excellent overview, and for him and his highways drainage team for all the outstanding work they do on a day-to-day basis across the city. So, Chair, I don't know if you or the committee would like Mike to go through the technical detail of the report.
Yes, if you could, that would be fabulous. Thank you. Mike, over to you.
Yeah. Yes, good morning, everyone. And yes, good morning, everyone. Just introduce myself. My name is Mike Sweeney. I'm the flood risk team leader for Swansea Council. Just thank you, Andrew, for giving an overview of the report, because basically I don't want to duplicate what you said, really. But there are a couple of key elements within the report I'd like to go over. And most importantly is the new local flood risk management strategy, which we are currently undertaking, and the new flood action plan, which will supplement that strategy. So just to remind ourselves what the local strategy aims to do. As a lead local flood authority, we're responsible for local flood risk in Swansea, which is flood risk from surface water runoff, ordinary water courses and groundwater. And the local strategy will focus on these local sources of flood risk. I don't know if some of you online today will remember, we first published our first strategy in 2015, setting out our approach to managing flood risk across the county would be undertaken. But now there's a statutory requirement to update it, and every authority in Wales is duty bound to do the same. The new strategy will give an overview of climate change and flood risk in our area. It will also demonstrate how we work with other partners and coordinate our sort of funding streams and our policies to align with their plans and policies. I'm speaking specifically about NRW and DC Welsh Water, to work quite closely with them. The strategy will be also setting out our roles and responsibilities for managing flood risk in our area. It will be looking at the assessment of flood risk in Swansea, and it'll be looking at the ways in which we can mitigate those risks. And we will be demonstrating how we mitigate those risks for our most communities at risk in our flood action plan. And the flood action plan will be made up of 6 strategic flood risk areas, so chosen that they represent hydraulic boundaries of Swansea. And within those flood risk areas, we can identify those communities most at risk, people or residential properties at risk, critical infrastructure, commercial premises, and flood risk to the natural environment. So effectively, it's a 6-year plan, and hopefully we'll continue the work which our previous FRUMP promoted, and we'll be looking to introduce further measures into areas where we have most concerns in Swansea. So that's probably the most key aspect of this report, is that we're undertaking the new flood risk management strategy, but more importantly, how we're going to mitigate areas of concerns in Swansea for the next 6 years. So I can go through the rest of the report. We've got a number of Welsh Government grant funding schemes in play at the moment. Obviously, our role in the Drainage Office is to seek funding. We all know the funding is quite tight within local authority. So in some cases where we think that there's major flood alleviation schemes are needed, we will apply to Welsh Government as part of their capital programme for grant funding to see if we can get external support for funding of these major schemes. I'm glad to say that we've had approvals for 2 grant awards, one for Capel Road in Clydach and West Street in Gorsainan. And Calais Square, we're just waiting on a decision for that, which is currently under review. But unfortunately, with these business cases, they're quite complex in nature, and they do take a lot of time to develop. And where you think that they start off as small sort of studies, sometimes, and in a lot of these cases, they turn into quite complicated reports. Andrew's mentioned, or Councillor Stevens mentioned, the drainage budget, which is there. It's to do with, it will cover small works, and it will cover small highway schemes, highway works, and generally it's based or reacting to complaints we receive from members of public, you yourselves as members, and obviously our operational people who identify issues on our drainage assets. The SAB function, I'm glad to say it's increasing. We're finding work-ins get running more smoothly, especially within internal projects. We're trying to develop a system in play here where we're encouraging pre-applications, so that we see now that drainage strategies have been improved the quality of submissions have been improved, and obviously that work is increasing. So it's good to see sustainable drainage systems being introduced into Swansea, and we're at the stage now where we are seeing some actually constructed on the ground, so to speak. So it's good to see. The Mumble scheme has just been previously mentioned, so I won't go into detail of that. And obviously the operational update, you've heard that we've got extra teams in play, and in to support our routine maintenance. Obviously we have a reactive team in play as well that can deal with complaints and reported blockages of gullies. So that's it really, that's the report in detail. So I thought I'd mention the local flood strategy as an area which is probably most important to us at the moment. And thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Right. Shall we go on to the questions on the local flood risk management? Mary, you've got a number of them here.
Yeah,
do you want to start?
First one, Mike very kindly has actually answered the question. So if I could just, I'm not going to ask any more about it because obviously you don't know. Can I change my first question then to something that's occurred to me in the interim? I'm going back quite a number of years when we were talking about looking, it's connected to question 2 actually, with the TAN 15 and the flooding of land, or not building houses on it. I'm on the replacement LDP group as well, so it's obviously come up in planning talking about our famous TAN 15. But I seem to remember in the Swansea Valley we were looking to have, I don't know what the technical term, like catchment tanks, so that we could hold the water back from the Tower, and then it would be released when it was well suitable to do. And I got a feeling something happened in Pontedillas or above Pontedillas. Can Mike sort of explain, are we looking at these kind of things to sort of in areas where we know are going to be prone to flooding, rather than lose valuable land for building on? Are we actually looking at other ways of sort of holding the water back and then releasing it when it's obviously not flood conditions? So that's one. And also, do you know when TAN 15 is actually going to be approved and we can use it?
Yeah, if I just
could I just come in, particularly on the TAN 15, if I could, because I know that Tom Evans is particularly chairing a committee with all planning officers that working on the detail of TAN 15. From the message I'm receiving back, we're not far off that. I think Welsh Government have taken further consultation, have worked closely with the planners to look at the consequences and sometimes mitigation. So I don't think it's far away. I believe it will be with us in the very near future. So hopefully that can come to the planning committee sooner than later. But there is still gathering further evidence at this moment.
Thank you. Right. Mary, you finished your questions for now, haven't you? So you can get a
Shall-
No, I
breather.
haven't had my answer from Mike.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw a hand up
Okay.
from Councillor Thomas. So I was
Okay.
thinking of whether or not he wanted to come in or not. But shall I answer the question first?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, the question, yeah, it's a good point you're making, Mary. I think a lot of schemes we see in sort of attenuation features being used or utilised to prevent flooding. And I think the one you're referring to in Pontedilais, perhaps it's suggests it's a natural resources Wales scheme where they've put in attenuation in the upper catchment of Pontedilais and restricting flows down onto the River Dillais. So that has great benefits to the community in Pontedilais. And so basically there's a controlled flow rate there now for a lot of the length of the stream, which reduces flood risk significantly. I think in terms of attenuation features in general and storage areas, I think these are considered as part of flood alleviation schemes, especially if it's natural flood risk management systems could be used. But I'm not aware of anything has been introduced so far, but something to be developed in the future. And of course, with new developments, I think all new developments now will have some form of attenuation features installed to restrict the development runoff to what they class as greenfield runoff. And that's not to exacerbate any flooding downstream of the development. So attenuation features, whether it tanks, which basically I really don't like because the flood risks are evident within tanks. It's like a blind science, if you like. It's underground. But obviously what we see now is attenuation features being installed in new developments in the form of detention basins and above ground storage features like ponds and wetlands.
Can I come back? Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
Because
Yes, of
my
course.
question 9 is about the attenuation ponds in actual new developments. And I know Sarah obviously can talk perhaps a bit more about it, but I do have a problem with the way that we actually construct them. And I do actually make the point every time one comes before planning. The way currently we do the ponds, I think they're dangerous. And I think we seriously need to have some kind of I don't know, supplementary planning guidance or something to make sure that they are constructed so they're not a danger to young children, because these are mainly on the new big estates that we are approving, and I am concerned that we're putting a pond which could be very deep, obviously, when there's flood water in it. And equally, if there's no water in it, perhaps the child can't get back out. So we don't seem to have taken that risk into consideration. From my perspective, I'm not saying that you haven't, but when I see them, they don't seem to have measures. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
just to respond to that, Councillor Jones, you know, with regards to SUDS legislation and SUDS standards, there's definite details where and specifications that we use to prove such schemes in terms of ponds, construction of ponds and wetlands, and basically, you know, your concerns, we have concerns, same concerns. You know, the risk to young toddlers and children is always a risk, but certainly the design standards sort of try and mitigate that risk, if you like, because a lot of the things that we see in Swansea at the moment are dry detention basins. So most of the time they should be dry basins, but the design of them should be that so that they should at least have shallow gradients in the area, so you don't have steep falls, children fall into water bodies, so there should be shallow gradients. And as well, what we see now is that developers are fencing these type of features off as well to stop toddlers entering the site. So it is a concern, but as a drainage authority, we do approve in accordance to the best guidance and details available, and that's obviously has risk involved with it as well.
Thank you.
I'm sure Councillor Keaton will add a bit more later.
Probably. Thank you, Mary. My question's next. Would it be a good idea to put water butts on each house and encourage people to use a downpipe like that as a short-term measure? We know that a lot of people are water metered now, so if they could be encouraged to use rainwater, even if they don't garden, just to wash their cars or anything rather than using tap water. But it would also stop that, in the heavy rain we've had, stop that downpour from coming off people's roofs and straight into the watercourse.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to come in on that one. I think question 3 and question 4 are very similar in reality. I think what we do, particularly through our placemaking setting within the planning guidance, that we do encourage grey tanks where possible to get flushing and to water. But so we've already got the process in being, particularly within the new LDP and the process within our strategy of that we are trying to encourage in placemaking. So that is very much encouraged, and I support the thing of harvesting rainwater.
Can I come back with that? Oh, sorry, and Andrew, you wanted to come in?
Sorry, excuse me, Chair. Yeah, no, I just wanted us to echo what Councillor Hopkins said there. Actually, it's certainly something I would like to see where possible, and so it's something that anyone can take up and do themselves if they wanted to. It's something I do myself, and a little bit further than that, there are many farms in Swansea, me being one of them, that actually catches the rainwater on their shed roofs as well. I mean, there was some grant aid at one point allowing businesses to apply for that, and what I do in terms of ours is that we catch the water from our cattle shed, and it uses to water the veg garden throughout with a 10,000 litre tank, so a bit larger than a rain butt, but it uses then to water the garden throughout the summer. And as we're on a meter, there's a financial saving there as well. So, and I know there are many others that do that. So certainly something I see positives of anyway, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering whether it could be seen as something more official, that perhaps it could become a part of planning where it's an essential, like they do in the Netherlands, I believe, the planning there, which they are very up on that, as you can imagine, for obvious reasons. Thank you. Next one, Chris, do you want to come in with your question?
I was going to say, is Will still waiting to come in? Because he's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry, Will. Sorry, Will, carry on.
Thanks, Chris. It's all right. I suppose it was based on what Mike was saying really earlier, so I was just following up on that. So I might as well, if you don't mind, Chris, that'd be great. Thanks. But I think Mumbles, I just wanted to say, well done to the team and everyone involved in the Mumbles project, because it's obviously been a huge undertaking and a massive amount of work for officers and cabinet member, and the contractor's also been really good. They've done a great job at what is a huge amount of work going on down in Mumbles. Obviously, there's big disruptions with parking, but you can't make an omelette without cracking a few eggs, as they say. So it's really good scheme, and I think the placemaking side of things, obviously that's not what the budget's for, but I think the council's done a very good job at doing as much as it can with that budget for placemaking. So again, well done to everyone involved with that. My question to Mike on the sort of brief presentation there was the small schemes you said that there was available in the budget. I just wondered if there was a priority list and how those are scored. And also if we do look at paths as well, with obviously infrastructure and roads are I guess more important than protection of property and industrial stuff. But with active travel being prioritised, I suppose, by Welsh Government now, do we look at sort of some of those paths that are flooding and try and alleviate them, and are they in the plan as well? Thanks.
Thank you.
Just to answer that, Chair, yeah, Councillor Thomas, just to go back with the drainage budget and the programme of works, a lot of it is reactive work in terms of fixing sort of defunct systems, and then there's priority given to where highway flooding is a serious concern, there's a risk to highway users where we need to see improvements, or if there's a risk to property. So we do have a scoring system, but there's a very light scoring system. But obviously we do prioritise where we think money is best invested. But yeah, as I say, it's focused very much on reactive work, but obviously priority is given to risk to road users and property owners. In terms of footways and footpaths, I'm not aware of any monies being funded towards active travel schemes in terms of prevention of flooding to these paths, but something we could look into. So just to answer that question fairly too.
If I could just come back on that, Chair, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from my own, obviously we only know our own wards, don't we? And there's often, you know, small sections of paths that flood, and when, obviously, I'm sure it's the case for many other ward members. So I think it might be something that's worth keeping an eye on, and if that funding ever becomes available, because it does stop people being able to, you know, walk to this bus stop or walk here or walk there when there's heavy rain. So yeah, that's something I think that's worth looking into. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Yeah, it is an important part of active travel, being able to get to the places to be active to start with. Thank you. Chris, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, no worries. So it says, great that we've just had planning consent for the works in Blackpill. The issues, I seem to have more issues in Blackpill in Mill Lane rather than at the Woodman. It's pretty much the entire length of Mill Lane, from the drain just above Roman Bridge Close not being flush with the curb, so all the water messes it, all the way down to number 6 Mill Lane, which was flooded a few months ago, and the family actually living there had to move out of the home for a few months. That's the one just opposite the Mumbai. I'm not sure whether it's an issue with, I don't think it's an issue with the drainage, but there's either a spring has appeared under the middle of the road there, and there's a couple of sinkholes started to appear in just slightly west of number 6 up the hill. It looks possibly like a burst Welsh water pipe in the road there. At some point, somebody's been in and filled the hole, but it's still sort of sinking down where it looks as if the ground underneath has been eroded.
Thanks, Chris. Who's going to take that? Mike, are you going to take
Yes,
that?
yes, certainly. Councillor Evans, I think some of the issues you raised there are sort of great concern, and perhaps if convenient, could it possible if I could meet you on site there to discuss the issues? Yeah. And then go through them then. Okay.
Yeah, cool. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mike. Chris, you've got another question?
Okay. Yeah, it was online a couple of months back that the River Towy is one of the 20 most polluted rivers in the country. What are we doing to work with Dŵr Cymru to stop them or help them not to discharge sewage directly into the river? I understand it's happening in Trebanos and Powys as well, but us being Swansea, we're sort of downstream, so we get the brunt of all of it.
Andrew, I think you're sharing your screen with us. We can't see you anymore, or your field. Can't see anyone anymore.
I don't think I'm sharing my screen, Chair.
I can see
Hold on a second.
I can see Andrew's field, but nobody, but no screen share.
Yeah, no, this is bizarre. Liz has gone to look to see if there's anything elsewhere happening. In the meantime, shall we?
I hope I'm not sharing my screen. You'll see my Star Trek wallpaper.
All right. No, we've missed that treat. There we go. There we go. Back on. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. I don't know where we were though after that bit of excitement. Michael, are you going to answer Chris's question?
It does come under the umbrella of pollution control, so wondering if it's somebody from pollution control or.
All right. Tom, if you could come in.
Morning. Yeah, I can come in on that one. It's an item that was raised in October in Scrutiny as well. So NRW are the regulator with Welsh Water and are already engaged, continually engaged with Welsh Water, looking at the aim of reducing some of the inputs and overflows that come into the Towy. We've seen over the years that through investment, etc., that Welsh Water have undertaken, that Swansea Bay, the water quality there for the designated bathing sampling point there has improved. We're currently good water quality, so that's improved over the years. But NRW are asking Welsh Water if they can prioritise some of their assets under their asset management programme with a view to, obviously, the ultimate benefit of quality within the Towie.
Thanks, Tom. Chris, do you want to come back in to that?
No, that's great.
No, that's fine. Okay, thank you. So we're on to Michael.
Oh,
There we go.
Right, the question I've got is that I've noticed the Mumbers Road going west, when we get extremely heavy rain, the left-hand lane is very badly flooded, and especially when it's dark, this is a real hazard. I am aware that the council have been working on this for years to try and solve the problem, and it's virtually at sea level, so it's a very difficult problem to solve. Thank you.
Michael, are you taking that?
Yeah, certainly, that's fine. Yeah, Mumbles Road, as we've had some.
Oh, I didn't have the sheet in front of me, sorry. Oh, yes. My apologies. My apologies. I haven't got the questions downloaded onto my computer, so I asked the wrong question. I was just asking, is there a way of finding out from the Met Office the total rainfall in Swansea is actually on the increase?
That was your second question.
Oh, I just complete message.
It's fine. It's fine. Mike?
Unfortunately, I didn't download the questions.
Yeah, just referring to the second question is probably a quicker response. That, yeah, there's some good data on the website these days. The Met Office holds some good data, and I can share that link with the group. And basically, they got recorded data from 1836 to 2024, and it's monthly, seasonal, and annual precipitation. So what we find on that website is a UK region of South Wales, and you can look at rainfall data from 1836 to date, and then you can get a picture of if rainfall's increasing. But just to give you some form of report, in February, the average rainfall figures in Swansea was 103 mil, and the actual rainfall we had was double the amount in February. So definite signs that there is increase in rainfall we've been experiencing. But the data there is good to see, actually, on this. You can see what's going on. So I can share that link to the panel.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to refer to the Mumbles Road issues. We have had concerns over the last 12 months. We've had a lot of flooding outside the university entrance. And this was due to a blocked outfall, which we subsequently cleaned. So by the university should be okay now. We have maintenance teams on site there going to clean the gullies from Brynmill Lane down as far as the Blackpill Lido. So they're on site as we speak and will be for foreseeable duration. And then we have had an issue with the actual service line, which picks up all these gullies by Ashley Road, where there was a blocked outfall there a couple of years ago. And I think from what my understanding is some flooding over the weekend as well in that area. So what we're going to do is to check that outfall, which discharges to the Clyne River, to ensure that it's not blocked again. So yeah, we got actions in play to look at this to investigate it further.
Thank you, Mike. I think it's my question next. Very short and sweet. Relevant staff and councillors need to do SUDS training. I've done SUDS training twice now. The second time I did the same training just to see if I wasn't being gaslit, because some of the sites, those deep holes that Mary's on about, don't seem to appear that much in actual SUDS. They seem to be gentler with the sides going out more, and ironically is supposed to be good play areas for children when they're not full of water, so they do get used. So I know it's a problem, because when you've got a housing plan and you want to get as many houses in, and we all need all of us know we need more houses, but it's a real problem because SUDS done properly does take up room, and we're aware of that. I don't know how we're going to cross that bridge, but I think we're going to have to come to grips with it and learn to use SUDS more effectively. Otherwise, we're just going to get more and more water spillages into the sea. So it is important that we do get some sense there. Mike, I don't know if you want to come in on that one.
Yeah, that's fine. I think a member send in the panel a sort of the presentation slides which Syria produced last year, which was the introduction to SUDS training and the approach which SUDS have on new developments. I got no issues in contacting Syria to ask them to arrange another training course for members if interested. That's fine.
Thank you so much.
I'll just come in because
Yeah.
particularly on the planning officer side, I spoke to Ian Davis this morning on the planning side of it, and all our planning officers have had relevant training on SUDS, and we work very closely with the highways team and particularly Paul Sweeney's team. But when we are developing these sites, I think the alternative is that we cause more hydraulicing into the pipes. So SUDS is the legislation there to protect the drainage system, to make sure what we got. And I take the point particularly about the safety side of it. And I think it's all about the design and fencing where there isn't. The alternative is that, and I think what we must realise is SUDS is about increasing biodiversity, habitat, working with the environment, what we got, and enhancing the area around. And it's all interlinked with our placemaking setting within the LDP as well. So it should be done to enhance, not in my opinion, become a hindrance to any development, because I see the opportunities of it being great, but it's getting the mindset of why, and I think that's the issue we need is educating more and more people about what SUDS do and the reason for it. So, I believe SUDS is the right solution, because we cannot keep building houses and hydraulic in drains. We're already seeing flooding in areas in certain areas where the drainage system cannot cope, and this is the alternative, and I really do support it, but education is in. So I think, as Mike has said, what we need to do is get more and more training in, particularly for the planning committee and the use of that. So more than happy to facilitate that we can.
Thank you. Oh, right. Mary, can you hear me?
I can now. I couldn't then. I did have my hand up to actually speak to the last question, actually, but then I realised my own question was next. So perhaps I can just comment on the previous question. I'm very pleased to hear about the fencing in if it's needed, but it never appears on the planning report or actually on any slides we see. So I think we need to have a bit more of a conversation maybe with planning. And I don't recall doing SUDS training. I might have missed it, and I would really welcome, doing the training. So yes, I think it's a good idea, especially everybody that sits on planning committee would actually know then what we're supposed to be looking for. But I agree with Councillor Hopkins. It is meant to be an enhancement, but unfortunately, I don't think it is, because on some of the sites that are constrained, where are they going to cut a corner? Well, it's certainly not on getting a house in. It's going to be on other things. So I think we really need to be much more aware of what we're approving, especially, as I said, if we sit on planning. My question, though, was nothing to do with that. It's about the watercourses and drains. We've all heard about, obviously, Mumbles Road now has been flooding and you've got people on site. But I know there's a red list because I happen to have a drain on the red list. But I just wanted to know really how many we've got on the red list and where it could be found, because we do get residents asking, well, when's my gully going to be cleaned? Which leads on to my next question, which is obviously the increase of cleansing, and also do we do it more in the autumn, which obviously is in the leaf fall, and hopefully not so much in the summer, although we've had flooding very badly in the summer in Calais. But I just wondered if we are sort of looking at different ways of using our cleansing teams so that we don't get so many problems in the autumn going into the winter. And if I can be very cheeky, I have thought of another question. which I wanted to ask about coastal flooding, which I had forgotten about. I think it was last winter, the Trafalgar Bridge on the River Tower, the walkway and everything was closed off because of the flooding. Is there anything we can do to alleviate it? Because I presume it's because of the barrage, but I don't actually know. But are there any plans to sort of look at this to make sure that the marina and all around that area actually doesn't get flooded? Because there's an awful lot of apartments on the marina, and it would, be very, very difficult to evacuate people for any length of time, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you going to take this one again?
Yeah, certainly. If I just go through the list then, Councillor Jones, in terms of the red list, we have no issues in sort of sharing the red list on the maintenance of our grids and water courses, plus the gully hotspots. That's fine. We can share that. In terms of the increase of cleansing, yeah, that's ongoing. I mentioned before that we have additional gully crews which help out on reactive calls, and obviously during the autumnal months it is increased. We have sweepers deployed to clean out the leaf fall, and we also during out of hours we got the facilities to bring sweepers in as well. To provide that service over a 24-hour period to bring the sweepers in to clean leaf fall as well, especially over weekends. And yes, so that's fine. In terms of coastal risk, there's our planners have just commissioned a strategic strategic flood consequent assessment for Swansea, which looks at climate change projections around that area you're talking about down by the marina, and that then will feed into our pipeline of thoughts going forward, how we protect communities in Swansea in the coastal regions. So as I say, that work is ongoing in terms of a consequence assessment for that area.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Sorry, Chair, if just to add really in terms of the Trafalgar as well, we are carrying out some study work because we had some particular challenges with flooding down at that end. So we're carrying out some study work at the moment and investigations in terms of to what's happening down there. So whether there's a localized solution that gets implemented as well, aside from what Mike was saying about that kind of strategic risk sort of element. So thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Right, where are we? On to right. Tom, I think you're up for the who's doing the report? Is it Tom?
Sorry, can I?
Sorry, Mary.
Wendy's got her hand up, but I want to ask
Wendy,
a question as the end.
Apologies, Wendy. What did you want to say?
No problem. Yeah, I've listened to everything and it's been quite interesting, I have to say. And you would imagine in Pentair being elevated, we'd have no flooding problems. But of course, that isn't true. I've had properties flooded, roads flooded, and okay, issues have been resolved since then. But with a new build and an attenuation pond, which has been deepened and extended, you would think that would solve the problem of runoff, but it doesn't. Continual mud flows down a hillside into Pentair Pond, and it's causing havoc. So that, that is what can still happen, irrespective of what provisions are in place. What I wanted to specifically ask a question on was in the report 2.7, which is operational update, and it's paragraph 4. It says the authority also offers a paid service for weekend work over and above our service level, which has been taken up by a small number of councillors. I wonder if you could elaborate, Mike, on that. And it comments that it works well if there is community engagement to assist with parking over drains. Can you just elaborate on that and give some clarification as to exactly what is on offer? I think it might be useful to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Who wants to take that, Mike? Or
Yeah, that's
Jack?
fine, Chair,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, it's a scheme that's been put in play and it's worked well in one other ward, I believe, is in the Uplands, where the ward members actually paid for the a gully team to be on site there over the weekends. And I think the funding went through Jane Hutt. I think I got Jane's name right, Jane Hutt. And effectively, you know, if you as members needed gully attention within your ward, then we offer weekend work for our crews, but obviously the funding would have to come from yourselves. And what helps then is that I think the community engagement means therefore that if it's parking over drain issues, then members in the Uplands wards were quite keen to get involved and knock on doors and get cars removed from our teams to clean the gullies out prior to our teams attending site. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you, Wendy. Mary, you want to come back in?
Yeah, totally new question, and it is actually to do with planning. So I'm sure Councillor Hopkins is going to probably answer part of my question. You know, a lot of people dig up their drives and then they put down, you know, artificial surfaces, obviously to get the cars off the road. Currently, I don't think there's any legislation there, but obviously when you put down a hard surface that probably has no permeability in it, then the water is going to run off into the drains. Are we looking at trying to bring anything in, or is the Welsh Government to make sure that people have planning permission, or whether they have to make sure that their driveways are permeable and actually do drain away in a different manner? Thank you.
I know when existing planning goes in, particularly with our SUDS legislation, then it do need to be permeable. I'm aware that that is in place. I'm not aware that there is anybody outside that who is doing remedial work on the driveways that would apply. But if there was a planning permission involved, it would also imply with the SUDS that do mean it must be permeable. So not for existing, but on new build, it would include, I'm guessing. But I'll find out the proper answer and come back to you.
Thank you, David. It's one we all want to answer,
Thank you.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Mary. Okay. Oh, is there any? Oh, Joe, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry. Back to gullies. Just like to thank Mike and his team for their continued hard work, and they'll get every support from the councillors in St Thomas and everywhere else, I hope. But thanks very much, Mike.
Yeah, I think we can all say thank you as well, Mike, and everyone else that's come in for this. Thank you so much. Oh, Chris, sorry. You wanted to come back in?
Yeah, no worries. It was just to add a little bit on to Mary's point, and that is astroturf and plastic grass isn't usually permeable.
True. Yeah, I don't think you need an answer to that one, do you? No. Thank you. Thank you all for coming here and having a grilling. And we'll move on to the next item. Who's leading on air quality? I think it is Tom, isn't it?
Yeah, Tom is going to lead it. There are particularly some technical data involved in this report, as you can aware. So Tom will take us through the detail of that. I could just reassure you that we do work very closely with Welsh Government and Swansea University on our air quality, and I think we've got a good record in Swansea of what we do. I no attempt to take you through the detail of the report because, as I say, it's very technical. More than happy to hand over to Tom at this point and Adrian for any questions or to present the report. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. So the report's been set out as a sort of an informatory document for you, but I can quickly run through it. But if I then hand over to questions, I might be able to respond to in a bit more detail to your particular interests. But looking at it, the council, we have the duty that we have to fulfil on the annual progress report for Welsh Government, which we must submit September every year. and that is available on the council's website, and the link is here within the report. Key themes really for air quality in Swansea. Out of the pollutants that are in the original National Air Quality Strategy, the two that of primary interest for us really are nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter, of the PM10. So that's the inhalable threshold there, and they have actual set target concentrations in legislation for us to monitor against for compliance. As it stands in Swansea, we are compliant with the PM10 threshold, and for the last 4 years, which is up to the end of 2022, we are complying with the NO2, the nitrogen dioxide annual mean threshold as well. And provisionally, the 2023 data is going through ratification sort of in the first quarter of 2024. So we'll be expecting that data to be signed off in April. But we're looking at the provisional data sets, we're looking compliant again, which will give us 5 years of compliance with the nitrogen dioxide. So we'll be looking then at our air quality management area, AQMA, the Swansea AQMA 2010. We'll be looking to instigate proceedings now to revoke that air quality management area. That actually covers 3 areas within Swansea. And I think you'd asked me to show my screen to share the map. Now's probably the right time to do it. Just to give you a quick indication, if I hide us in the bottom, can you all see that? Obviously, this is a live system here, so the copyright requirements are in place. But just to give you an indication, the little hashed areas are the actual air quality management areas in Swansea. As you can see, they link to sort of the main arterial routes through the city, and they're driven by the nitrogen dioxide concentration requirements. So the first area in the Havard was the existing one, which was first identified in 2001. And then in 2010, we added Forest Fach and Scrutiny. So the nitrogen dioxide concentrations in these areas are now compliant and have been for 4 years and are looking likely to be compliant for the 5th year, which means that we can then start looking at revoking the AQMA. All right, if I quickly overlay the continuous monitoring sites, again, from what you can see is they're looking primarily through the arterial road networks. So we've got a background site in Cumlevel Park, which gives us good urban background data. And then we've got them in Morriston on Forth Cymtawi. You've got the original AURN on Carmarthen Road, and we've got the Havard, St Thomas on Portennant there and into Scrutiny. So that gives you an indication of where our real-time continuous monitors are. When I say continuous, that's our 15-minute or 1 hour data concentration points every hour, every day, every year. The additional work we do then for nitrogen dioxide is our diffusion tubes. Matt's going to get very busy now, unfortunately, just to show you the extent of what we do. There are 200 sites a month that we change. We've reviewed that this year and we're halving the network due to compliance. But as you can see, if I scroll out quickly, you can see the areas that we cover. This is when we look at getting a wider spread across the city. Okay, so this is nitrogen dioxide. And again, these sites are all compliant when we're looking at the residential or the 1 hour exposure. So if you're looking at city centre, somewhere where you might be shopping, hospitals, for example, schools. I know that's been referenced in one of the questions as well. So I can come back to this later if we want, but I'll stop sharing for now. So on the whole, for air quality and the way that we're reporting, we are compliant, which is a positive for us in Swansea. We then also, further work that we do when we look at air quality, as Councillor Hopkins has mentioned, we do collaboration work with Swansea University. We've also collaborated with a company called Think Air on research work, and that's been funded through Welsh Government's Local Air Quality Management Support Fund, which they've run annually over the last 3 years. So we've submitted project bids, which I think last time we met, we were chatting around the engine idling work that we'd done in Scrutiny, and we're close to now completing the reports on the work that was carried out in Oystermouth as a follow-up on that study as well, around the schools. Key things to note for the year really with the national, so the receiving royal assent has become the Environment, Air Quality and Soundscape Wales Act 2024. And with air quality, one of the important parts of that is that a concentration threshold, a target, will be set for PM 2.5. So that's 2.5 microns. It's a smaller particle size. obviously would be inhalable deeper into the lung, into the alveoli, and evidence research is there to show that we can cross into the blood and also cross potentially into the placental blood barrier as well. So that's the key area of research is driven that way. So we will have a threshold by January 27 set in legislation. That will be in a monitoring enhancement for us. We already monitor at 3 locations for 2.5, PM 2.5, but we'll now have a threshold once it's set that we have to monitor against. That's being discussed now through the relevant groups with Welsh Government and academics, etc., and health professionals. Furthermore, then, with policy from Welsh Government is driven twofold primarily. 1, to achieve compliance, but 2, to further work towards reducing exposure. So there will always be the driver for us within Swansea Council to look at monitoring, assessing and reviewing what we can do when we're looking at air quality and potential episodes of poor air quality. So on that note, if I hand over to you for questions, it might be easier to respond to specific concerns that you may have or areas of interest.
Yep, thank you, Tom. Thank you for that. Right. I think, Michael, you've got the first question.
Yes, I actually think the officer has largely answered this question. I just wanted to know whether the trend for pollution from motor vehicles was actually down.
It's not as clear cut as that, unfortunately, because when we talk about pollutants, we need to think around which pollutant you're talking about. There are 7 key identified within the strategy, but the 2 ones mainly for us linked with motor vehicles, we look at NO2, and yes, we're seeing a long-term downward trend in concentration there, driven by fuel types, vehicle progression in technology, road layouts. For us, we saw we have the evidence to confirm the more of a distributor road, the effect that had on the air quality for us by the shift in traffic flow. It was just under 30% when it was introduced back in 2017-18, and we were able to demonstrate and evidence the reduction in nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide disperses and drops off quickly with distance from the curb. So once it leaves the exhaust onto curbside, if you have houses like in the Neath Road that are close to the roadside, within a metre or 2, we can get a canyon-like effect, and you'll find that concentrations will tend to be slightly higher than if it was an open aspect. So we've certainly seen a downward trend. When we look at particulate travels a lot further, so can be impacted by other sources. So whilst we are seeing a slight downward trend there, it's too early for us to state that what's driven it. We're looking at the data now, but we are certainly going the right way. But again, those objectives, those target thresholds that are set, are being reviewed. It's accepted and completely understood with all the peer review that's out there. There is no safe limit for pollution, so we'll constantly be working towards how we reduce that exposure for residents.
Thank you. Chris, your questions next?
Yes, yeah. So the question really on so the mobile units outside schools has pretty much been covered. But I was speaking to Councillor Peter Jones last night, and he was saying about Delbash Road outside Bishop Gore School, particularly at pickup time. And he said what tends to happen there is that the school buses, the transport, will sit there and leave the engines idling for anything up to half an hour, which is sort of causing issues for the residents along the road there, so as well as the children coming out. So I was wondering if we could do anything to ensure that things like school transport switches off the engines while they're waiting for the children to come out to reduce pollution from that particular source.
Thank you.
Could I just say, particularly on the school buses left idling, that should not be happening, because when we procure it, we actually insist that they shouldn't be doing that. So if you want me to take that up through our procurement chain, then I will, particularly I'll take that up and ensure that don't happen any further.
That'd be very useful. Chris, okay?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Just to add a bit further on that one for you, Councillor, within the new Act that's come into force now last month, engine idling is one of the areas where they're looking to increase powers there for local authorities. There's already a power under stationary idling offences. We have been monitoring along Dillabesh Road for nitrogen dioxide for several years, and we've demonstrated compliance with the annual mean. And I mentioned earlier about an hourly mean. So there's an hourly mean threshold, of 200 micrograms per hour for nitrogen dioxide. Guidance tells us that if we have an annual mean over 60, then you should be looking for that hourly. That sort of is a starter point for us to consider. We're not in that world. We're not looking at that concentration along there. So whilst we're compliant with that side, yes, there are powers being worked through now through the new Act to look at helping authorities with engine idling, because it's a short-term event. That's what we're looking at. So that's recognised now with this no safe level of pollution. You'll have a spike. Younger people, generally shorter by age, you're closer to the exhaust point as well. So that's all recognised, and that's the line that we're working with, and we'll work on the evidence as it comes through and implement those powers when they've been assessed.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. And yes, with the schools, particularly primary schools, there's the same problem. I used to chase buses, get them to turn off their engine. Okay. Mary? Oh, Wendy. Mary's got the next question, but Wendy's got her hand up. Do you want to ask a question, Wendy?
Oh, yes, thank you. It was the point made about houses being close to a road, and the closer you are, the bigger the impact. And referring to Scrutiny again, as you travel in from the north, and I'm trying to think what road it is, approaching Scrutiny Cross, I'm sure those that are familiar with the area will know, there is a new block of flats being built by Coastal Housing. And I am really very surprised how close they are to a road which has continual queues of traffic at traffic lights. I mean, surely we should be these days not building residential properties so close to busy roads. Isn't it something that should be looked at and taken into account before we grant planning permission? If anyone can comment on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Wendy.
I can come back to you on that, Councillor. In the shortest form, yes, it is, and it was. So through the planning process, we placed a condition on requiring that the applicant submitted an air quality assessment for that particular environment. We've had diffusion tubes in that area for quite some time because it's within the part of the air quality management area around Scrutiny, and our data has shown achievement of that objective. We are almost half the annual mean concentration of NO2. We're in the low 20s in that area from memory. So we asked for the assessment to determine the impact of the development, but also the potential exposure to the future development. So that was submitted, it was reviewed and found to be acceptable within the planning process. We have to take it on a case-by-case basis. So as long as there's no increase and it's not exceeding the annual mean objective, I haven't got grounds for objection there. So the distance from the curbside is the same as the properties, roughly the same as properties going up the road as well, on that elevation. And we also have properties the other side of the road. So you've got a mix of traffic flow there. You've got the inbound stationary at the light, but you also have the traffic on the other side of the road accelerating away up the slope. And that's the area where we did the engine idling study the year before last, which that report will be contained within this year's annual progress report to show you the work that we've done. We did some modelling work there through the Welsh Government grants, looking at trying to use behaviour change to get motorists to turn their engines off at lights. I don't want to go into too much at the moment with that because we're doing some work at the moment now that I don't want to affect baseline responses, but happy to pick this up at a later date, and privately I can give you information, and we can pick this up next year with Scrutiny if you wish as well once it's finished.
Thank you, Tom. Is that okay, Wendy?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm quite surprised. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Mary, shall I bring you in now for your last question?
Will was indicating, I don't know if it wasn't connected to the last question. Do you want me to ask mine or answer Will first?
There we go. Will, do you want to come in?
Thanks, guys. Everyone's been very nice to me today. I was intrigued by your point on research. You said that Welsh Government and Swansea Council has done some research on sort of air quality and things. I'm just wondering on the difference between sort of tree-lined streets and if that makes a difference to the air quality, and if so, what trees are better, and if so, is that fed into our placemaking strategy? And have we done anything about that? So really, I think the first question is, do trees make a meaningful impact on the difference of the air quality? And obviously, as someone else mentioned about, Chris mentioned about Delabesh Road, there used to be a roundabout there before. And I'm just wondering the difference between roundabouts and traffic lights, and if there is a material difference, and when we go to swap them, is that a consideration that is considered, basically? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If I come back quickly backwards on the question, if we're looking at roundabouts and lights, what's probably best if I provide a written response to that, because we were sampling specifically to do with nitrogen dioxide, but looking at by Teakwa College, where they changed the works there. Highways colleagues had come to us to do some monitoring pre and post, so I can get that data together to try and evidence it. But we've also been monitoring in the Scrutiny area for a long time, and obviously you've had the junction change there. So if I can do some background preparation of information there, I can provide a fuller response in writing, which is probably best. Onto trees, in green infrastructure, there's a bit of research out there. The jury's out potentially for us at the moment in Swansea, in the sense that you need time to do the monitoring. Initially, you're looking at, for deposition, you need a mass, you need an extent, a depth of hedgerow, for example, which is sometimes difficult on the roadside. But we installed the green screen in the St Thomas area along the light control junction with Lieutenant Road. We're looking to analyse the data there to see what, if any, impact it's had on nitrogen dioxide and PM 2.5. One of the factors in play there is unfortunately the pandemic, in that had its own impact on air quality. So we need to be looking at accounting for that when we're looking at data. We are looking at finalising the installation of the green screens at the two schools where we've talked about previously. And I'm working on the final sort of steps now to get that installed, but we'll be looking to gather data there to see the effect, whether or not there's an absorption effect or a screening effect provided by having that line of sight, as it were, blocked. But again, there's research out there, so I can do some put some links together and try and summarize some links for you on that one as well, if that's of use.
Thanks. If I could just respond quickly, Chair. I just wondering then if, based on that research, if that'll be fed into the placemaking strategy that we do certainly in towns that we're looking at with the Transforming Towns funding and things like that. So, if hedgerows, for example, are appropriate and they do make a difference to the air quality, that will be fed in. Thanks.
There's obviously work already being done on the green infrastructure strategy. That's not work that I've done, that I've written. So I can confirm that with you and find the right people to give you that information in the response as well. But it is considered.
Right, thanks. Okay. Where are we? I think that's it, isn't it? Is there any more? Are there any more questions? Yeah. She's had to leave, and really, you've covered it. You've done so well. We're questioned out, I think. Is there everybody else okay on screen? Any other questions? No. Well, you've done it well there. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Right. The next meeting is, oh, yeah, item 8, work programme 2003 to 2004. Any comments? No, no, no. Okay.
Yeah, Chair, can I just talk on the work
Yeah,
plan?
yeah,
Sorry,
of course.
I haven't. My computer seems to have frozen. I've still got access to me, but I haven't got the work plan in front of me. So this might not be relevant. But one of the in the biodiversity agenda item in full council on Thursday, one of the things which I've been speaking about for quite a long time is mentioned, which is biodiversity to be considered during planning applications, which I think is great. I mean, obviously we don't want to add loads of cost on to planning applications and build costs, but making people aware of the impact of their planning on biodiversity, I think is very important. And if people can do things to improve that, that's great. So I just wondered if we could look at that in the work plan, or it is in the work plan. Thank you.
Well, it is, I should have stopped you earlier. It's in the next meeting on the 14th of May. And we'll probably have a pre-meeting as well beforehand to discuss it in depth and look at the questions we want to ask. So yes, a climate change update, including update on battery disposal, nature and biodiversity update, which you just mentioned, and achievement against corporate priorities, objectives, policy, commitments, and the panel review of the year. So there we go. So hopefully see you in May. Thank you. Right, right. Thank you all for attending and your endless patience. And see you in May. Are you going to stop recording? It's broken. Thanks.